Hello everyone and welcome to another r/EntitledParents on Arthur TV. You guys seem to really like the last video and there were a lot of nice comments about my voice again, so I thought I'd do another top post of the week from one of my favourite subreddits. Little entitled crap eats crab in aquarium store and mum defends him. Alright boys and girls, this seems super unbelievable, but when you've been working in a pet trade as a sales associate for long enough in weird areas, you start to see your fair share of entitled kids and their shit-stained parents. So for some context, I work in a mum and pop pet store in the eastern US, and while my expertise is in aquatics, I try and be a jack of all trades. The day this story happened was rather uneventful up until this point, all up until little shit and pig fucker entered the store. That will probably get me demonetized, so I'm just going to call them kid and mum for the rest of the story. My store was pretty modest, so it was fairly easy to see customers coming in and out, especially in the fish department, so I got the first look at these magnificent creatures. A 40-something-year-old woman talking on her cell, her hair obviously dyed blonde and outfit practically screaming midlife crisis, while her child was in tow. The kid must have been about 7 or 8 and he was playing on his Switch, wearing a shirt covered in what looked like a mixture of pizza sauce, soda, and plenty of mystery stains. At first, things were pretty normal. The kid originally not really caring about anything in the store, while his mum was getting enraged at him for not paying attention, though that changed rather fast. So the entitled mum and her kid were near the ferrets when she took his Switch, immediately causing a reaction of screaming and pouting before being distracted by some of the fish over in my department. Alright, so a little bit of unnecessary information here, but the way my store's fish department is set up is that 2/5 of it is freshwater, 2/5 of it is equipment, and the rest of it is saltwater. Given we weren't really known for saltwater, we only kept pretty generic yet sought after fish like hippotangs, various clownfish, 6-line wrasses, etc. The thing about the first two is that because of Finding Nemo, kids are always drawn to the Dories or the Nemos. Alright, that all in mind, the first thing that this kid did was head over to the small assortment of hippotangs that we had, press his shit-covered face against the glass and yell out Dory as loud as he could. His entitled mum hailed me down from algae scrubbing and this started the encounter. I like to act quite casual around the workplace because I find it lowers any sort of anxiety any customers might have and it makes me way more approachable. So the first thing out of my mouth was, "Hey there, how's your night going? Do you need some help with something?" She started out our encounter with a roll of the eyes before pointing to the tang and demanding a price with a simple but rude, "How much for this thing?" After shifting gears from a casual standing to a more professional one, I simply told her that the tang was $160 because he was a good sized tang. Of course she scoffed at this, but what came next was a bit more worrying. The entitled mother pulls out $30 from her purse and placed it on the desk we used to bag fish, saying in an aggravated tone, "That's all you're getting, bag him." Things start to go poorly from here. It's worth noting that it was 9:15 at this point, the store having closed about 15 minutes ago, although we make it a policy not to ask customers to leave until 9:30. It was just my manager and myself at this point, and my manager was in the office closing down registers, so it was essentially like I was the only employee in the store. Seeing the entitled mother placing $30 on the table, I raised an eyebrow before leaning against a wall, simply asking her, "Do you have a saltwater tank?" She didn't take this well. She started screaming without a second passing. "None of your fucking business, now bag my fish, you cocky little shit." I simply refused and slid her $30 back towards her before she slid it back, now even more pissed off. "I'm going to get your ass fired if you don't bag my fish right now." At this point, her kid was getting pissed at the interaction, screaming like a banshee about how he wanted the tang, still referring to it as Dory and beginning to stomp his feet in a tantrum. Soon enough, I was asking them to leave. So this is where I fucked up. I should have called the cops at this point, knowing that she wasn't going to leave without a fight. Her little brat was on the floor at this point, pounding his fists into the floor as snot dripped down his face and his mother tried to guilt me. You know how some opera singers can break glass with their voice? Well, this kid would have a knack for something like that. He was screaming as loud as humanly possible at this point as he managed to reach into the tank. At last, my manager had made his way out of the office and was watching what was going on. The kid grabbed a piece of live rock and accidentally grabbed a long spine urchin. Angry screaming turned right to wails of pain as he pulled a rock out of the tank with a poor little pom-pom crab in tow. At this point, I was less focused on the kid and more focused on making sure my manager was calling 911, which he did. When I turned around, I saw something that still gives me nightmares to this day. The kid had been clutching his hand whilst his mother tried to help him, and something was hanging out of his mouth. This poor little pom-pom crab had been crushed by the kid, with the boy having shoved it into his mouth and chomped down on it, leaving a little claw hanging out of his mouth. The next 2 minutes were a strange combination of astonishment and panic, with myself telling the kid not to move his hand since he would break the spines off the urchin, while his entitled mother began hitting me with her crappy purse, screaming that I had hurt her kid. I said to her, "Your kid shoved his hand into a tank, one with toxic animals nonetheless, and did this to himself. Calm the fuck down and leave him alone so that when the paramedics get here they can get the spines out." "How dare you," she replied. "You expect me to let my angels suffer? If you had just sold me the stupid fish, this would never have happened." Your kid reached into a tank and ate a crab. What the fuck did you teach this kid? Don't you ever tell me how to raise my angel. He had the right to eat that crab. You took something from him and he took something from you. By the end of this interaction, the paramedics had arrived, restraining the kid and taking him into an ambulance as the police tried to sort things out. Unsurprisingly, the entitled mother tried to pin everything on me, saying that I threw the urchin at him and that he ate the crab in a panic. Equally unsurprisingly, we had the entire thing on CCTV, including the entitled mother hitting me with her purse. So, long story short, the entitled mother was actually arrested for aggravated assault, as she had apparently stuffed a rock into her bag to give it extra punch. I didn't even notice until after the paramedics saw me that I was bleeding from my leg from the jagged live rock. After getting a statement, the cops left, with the mother and child going off to wherever the hell the cops took them. And I got out of everything with 8 stitches and a $300 bonus from my boss for handling the situation without anyone getting seriously injured. From what I ended up hearing, the kid had actually got stung by the foxface's dorsal spines, and that sent him into a blind rage. The mum got a plea deal and she ended up with a huge fine, some jail time and some other shit. In summary, I didn't sell an entitled mother a fish, her kid flipped his shit, grabbed an urchin and ate a crab, and the entitled mother got arrested for assault. This was by far the worst situation I have ever had in the store, and I still can't believe the outcome to this day. This was 3 years ago now. I was in work the other day when I saw a pouting kid over a mum not letting him get a hippo tank, and this has been brought to the front of my mind ever since. Yikes. A lot of the emphasis in that story was on the entitled mum, but what kind of weird instinct do you have to be born with to immediately shove a live crab into your mouth when you're startled?
That boy ain't right.
Entitled kid learns the hard way not to steal drinks. Do not read this if you have a weak stomach. Consider yourself warned. Okay, among my many vices, one that I've had for many years is my addiction to nicotine. Now, I'm not a smoker. Honestly, I hate the smell of all forms of smoke. I use smokeless tobacco, better known as snuff, chew, or dip, depending on where you are in the nation. And when you use this stuff, you spit. Sometimes quite a lot. Because of that, I've had this habit of keeping old soda bottles handy. That way, I can spit in the soda bottle and seal it. No need to worry about accidentally spilling it and making a mess. This has also the effect of sometimes making it easy to hide what I'm doing. I never expected that it would cause trouble though. Trouble and humour. So, a couple of years back, I was taking a cross-country trip by bus. About halfway to my destination, at a layover in Denver, I had the following encounter. So I was taking a seat outside the bus station at a nearby store. As I sit down, I put my half-full spit bottle beside me and start checking my phone. This entitled kid points at the bottle and says, "Gives me that." So I replied, "What? Huh?" "Oh, no, you don't want that." The kid instantly snaps back saying, "I want it, give it to me." Yep, the kid actually said gib. So once again I said no and told him to shove off. About this time, the kid ran over to his mother and said something. The lady came over my way and actually seemed quite nice, if very tired. Long bus rides will do that to you. "My boy says you won't give him the rest of your soda," she says to me. "It's not so." "I know full well what it is," she interrupted. "Why don't you just, give it to him? But just give it to him." At this point, I just shrugged and gestured for her to take the bottle. The liquid in it was dark as cola, though it sure as hell wouldn't be as tasty. The mum smiled and thanked me, taking the bottle and walking back over to her hellspawn. Out of curiosity, I decided to hang around and watch everything. So this kid turns to me, flips me the bird, and then makes a big show of opening the bottle and taking a big gulp of it. You could see his brain suddenly short circuit. His gag reflex kicked in, along with the sudden need to swallow. I could tell that his mind was fighting with itself. Eyes the size of saucers, the gag reflex won, and he blew the liquid out all over the front of his shirt and then all over his pants. Then he started to dry heave. He actually turned several interesting shades of colour too. All the while his mum was watching him, patting his back. That kid looked like he'd never trust a Coke ever again. Actually, you know what? Thinking about it, I don't think this is really an entitled parent story. Apparently, from the original Reddit post, the kid had been brought up spoilt by his grandmother, so this was just his mum teaching him a lesson the hard way. Probably put the kid off chewing tobacco for the rest of his life, so 2 birds with 1 stone. Good job, mum.
Great success.
My crazy aunt tries to steal my MacBook, and when she can't, she breaks it. So I'm a 17-year-old female and this is my entitled parent story. My auntie and her 3 children came from Texas to visit us for the weekend. I wasn't happy because her oldest son, who's 19, would always pick on me when I was younger. It was the first time in 10 years that she had visited. She comes into our house with the oldest son and the younger son who's 12 and the younger daughter who's 8. I put on my best fake smile and say hi. I tell the 2 youngest that they can go upstairs and play on my Xbox until it's supper. I then sit down beside my twin brother and my mum. Now, I do lots of video editing in Photoshop, etc., and Final Cut Pro 10 is my software of choice. I got a 15-inch MacBook Pro a few months ago because of this, as my 2013 iMac wasn't cutting it. As everyone was talking, and me and my brother are using our phones because our mum said we had to be down here to catch up with everyone, our entitled aunt goes upstairs to see the house. I follow her and offer to show her around. When she goes up there, she sees my MacBook Pro and asks whose it is. This is how the conversation goes down. EA is my entitled aunt and I am Krusty. Krusty, she says, whose laptop is that? Oh, I replied, that's my laptop. She then asked if she could hold it, so I was like, sure. She picks it up and says, wow, Krusty, this feels nice. Can I keep it? So obviously I replied, absolutely not. I'll pay you, she said. This was probably like $500? This is a $5,000 laptop. I worked my ass off for this thing. I'm not just going to give it to you. Krusty, she replied, I deserve it. I haven't seen you guys in 10 years and you don't even get me a gift. Is that my fault? I replied. I don't think so. Well, she replied, since you won't give it to me, you shouldn't be able to use it either. This bitch opened the laptop and threw it on the ground and then stepped on it with her high heels. If we had carpeted floors, the laptop probably would have been fine, but we don't. And once she stepped on it, I knew it was done. I called my mum and dad and they came running upstairs. My mum straight away asked why she did it and she literally mumbled, because she wouldn't give it to me. She and all her children are banned from our house. I'm turning 18 in less than a week, so I'm going to wait until I'm officially an adult and sue her for damages. Wish me luck. You know, it's fair to doubt anything on the internet, and these entitled parent stories are no exception. If you do believe it, however, the author went back and added an edit later on saying that they turned 18 and ended up winning the case. So there you go. They lived happily ever after. Probably. Anyway, that is unfortunately all we have time for today. There's going to be plenty more Reddit videos to come, so if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe for more. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like down below and let me know what other subreddits you'd like to see on this channel in the future. Thank you for watching and hopefully I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.